Hey everyone, Freya Fox here, and in today's video we're gonna look at Sojourn's advanced tips as well as go over the basic abilities, how to use them, and some crazy new Sojourn tech that you're only gonna find here, so stay tuned and let's get into it. So moving forward, let's talk about her primary fire. So the primary fire is a projectile based weapon and you get 40 bullets per clip. Which gives you plenty of time to kill even some of the higher shield tanks like Zarya here. And because it's projectile based, there is no damage fall off. And Dragontales, what are the numbers for primary fire damage?
The numbers would be 9 pellets for body shot with a 2-shot or 2 times headshot multiplier. So you're talking about 18 damage per pellet.
Right, so 18 damage per
There is no
pellet.
damage fall off.
And there's no damage fall off no matter how far you are away from the target. Although hitting headshots from this range can get quite difficult, and I don't recommend it. She really does play about soldiers, range, mid to long range, but definitely not sniper range until you have the railgun. And the railgun is her secondary fire. And a lot of you may be confused how it works. And basically how it works is you've got to charge it up. There needs to be some level of you shooting them with the primary fire, and you'll see that number goes from 0 to 100. Once it's at 100, you can do basically the equivalent of a Widow headshot. And what do the numbers look like for the railgun?
So at maximum, charge does 130 damage with a 2-shot headshot multiplier, same as your primary fire. It should also be noted the charge for your railgun decays after 2.5 seconds being out of combat or not without dealing damage.
Right. Feels like it's a little bit longer than 2.5. I just counted 2.5. So maybe...
Is it longer? Because the wiki says 2.5, so if
the numbers
not,
might say
2.5.
Yeah, numbers say 2.5, but that didn't look like 2.5 on the chart. Let's try it again. Let's charge it to 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like 8 seconds? A lot of people are not even shooting it at full. They're maybe shooting it at 60 to 70, which still does a significant amount of damage in the headshot. Oh, and the body shot too. Next thing to talk about is her grenade. And this is a really unique ability which slows people. It also prevents out of combat regeneration like shields and support healing, which is the new passive for supports. And this has a kind of line of sight going through shields and through walls as well, but not exactly as you would think. So let me show you how to use that. So Dragontales will explain a little bit more about the technicalities of the line of sight.
So essentially how the line of sight works is it bases itself off of where the grenade is and what the grenade sees. So imagine the electric field projecting from that center. So if you fire against this wall for me,
breaking them down.
So you see, if I walk, the grenade can see me, so I'm taking damage of effect. Fire it against the wall. But if you notice, even though I'm in the field, since the grenade can't see me, she can see me, but the grenade can't see me because I'm around that corner, I don't take any damage, and I don't suffer the slow either. Another thing to note about the persistent damage effect is as Freya was mentioning earlier, it's useful for stopping out-of-combat effects from triggering or otherwise delaying them. Common examples of this would be shield regeneration, any sort of out-of-combat stim, like the out-of-combat move speed that DPSs now get, alongside any sort of
passive
low-level persistent healing, like Lucio heals.
Lucio heals, Mercy buffing her heal on top of the passive that she already gets, things like that. And a good one to use this with is with the shield. So if I damage his shield a little bit, you'll notice this, and I throw that, it's not going to allow him to regen the shield. Look at this. You still can't regen, even though I'm not doing any physical damage. I'm not shooting at him. No one else is shooting at him. So that's a really good application for it. And another one we found was if you want to keep your DPS up, but you're in the middle of a reload, and especially they're trying to take the point. So go back over there like we did before. So let's pretend I used all of my bullets already. And I got 4 bullets left. Now walk up.
Not so fast.
He's getting hit, and I gotta reload. So look, that gives me enough time to finish off the kill right here on a high damage or just any target like that. And so let's talk about Sojourn's ultimate, which is her railgun basically being fully charged over and over again over a few seconds. So when you press your alt, you'll
This
notice
ends
that the
now.
railgun recharges within
Target
about
down.
2 seconds for a full charge, and you can alt
That's
by
2.
just having your right click over and over again
Recharging.
for about 4 to 5 seconds, which can be very powerful and enough to easily kill the entire team. So in this example, I'm using my alt and trying to get as close as I can to some of the squishier players like that, and you can see I easily get a triple kill.
Let's get back to basics.
Okay, moving on to her one game-changing ability really is her slide, guys. And the slide is the left shift ability by default, and you can see there
Good
are
to see you.
multiple ways to use this. So by default, you can just slide on any surface, but there's a big difference between the flat surfaces and the slope surfaces. And Dragontales will show you from that example.
Hello.
You can see what happens there. So can you explain that a little bit
Good to
more?
see you.
Sure. So when you're sliding along a flat surface like this, you basically, the moment you hit your power slide, you gain an immediate burst of momentum that's carried at a static amount the entire time. So if I release at any point during this jump, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to jump the exact same distance, right? But if I go down a ramp, for instance, while I'm going down the ramp segments, my momentum actually increases. So if I go, for instance, and I jump off during a ramp, as opposed to, give me 1 second,
During
as
the
opposed
flat
to during
Yeah.
a flat surface,
see you.
you notice how I land at approximately the same spot, even though I jumped about 2-3 meters before,
Right.
or later, I should say. You gain bonus momentum while sliding down ramps. Should also be noted, contrary to what your logic would indicate, you don't actually have to be ground bound to initiate the power slide. So if I'm in a jump, I can initiate the power slide immediately. Oops. But you can actually initiate the slide while mid-air. So I'm just gonna get in the air. You can initiate a slide while mid-air, but you can't initiate a jump while in mid-air.
Right.
You have to be grounded,
Exactly.
which should be noted.
That you can do some
grounded doesn't necessarily mean
On the ground.
On the ground.
Yes.
It just means you're sliding against something.
something. The best crosshair is going to be probably up to your preference, obviously, but in my opinion, I've tested out all the different ones, the dots, the crosshair with the center dot, and all the different variations. Now, by default, guys, the default crosshair is going to be, I don't know why it always asks me that, but it's going to be defaulted to just a circle dot, which looks like similar to how Tracers is and Farah. So if you look at this, in my opinion, this is kind of hard for me to see where the actual bullets are going, because they are not hit scan, they are kind of a projectile, and so there's a little bit of a spread on them. It's not noticeable, but if you look at the ground, you can see that they're not like a perfect straight line every single time. And railgun obviously is a hit scan shot, but in my opinion, this is too big and it's too hard to shoot the railgun accurately at the target. So what I recommend
Hey,
for most players is to change the default to just crosshairs. And this is the settings that I use. Now in the beta, for whatever reason, you can't preview how the crosshair is going to look when you design it. So I have it with the center gap of 20 and a crosshair length of 8. You can obviously adjust this to your liking with one thickness, and having the outline opacities on. You can choose to have the dot or not on. It doesn't matter in my opinion. But what's key to note about this is that you can see a little bit of the spread easier, which again is not that big, but I think the biggest difference is when you hit the railgun. It's a lot easier to tell when their head goes into the middle of those crosshairs, as opposed to using the circular dot, which can get a little bit confusing and clustered when you have multiple targets. Okay guys, and now the section you've probably been waiting for is some advanced tech that we have found and discovered through trialing Sojourn for all day long. The first one is going to be about the collision, which we talked about briefly in the earlier section, and how you can really abuse this. So we found, particularly with like someone like Orisa, who has the javelin that allows her to basically stop any kind of collisions or any projectiles, there is a little hack that you can do, and let's show that. So
When you're in slide state, you ignore all player collision. So if Orisa will walk forward for me. When I'm in slide state, I can slide straight through her and completely ignore her collision. Versus if I tried to walk through her, obviously, player collision moment, I can't walk through you, but I start
you,
to slide,
I'm blocked.
and I'm behind you.
Right.
It should also be noted That slide state ends the moment you hit your shift or your space bar.
And this is a very realistic example too. So people are pushing onto the point. They want to get on, obviously. The tank does, especially.
Hey.
So if you notice, I can jump off of her
Hey.
while in midair. And it should be noted, while you're sliding, you can decide in the moment. So like, let's say I'm jumping off this ledge and I'm debating, okay, do I want to go back into that alley or do I want to end up jumping up onto that platform? I can decide up till the moment. So if I jump at her and I just hold, I end up sliding through her. So I can use it to divert attention and end up somewhere else, as opposed to if I chose to jump off her head,
Hello.
I end up in an entirely different spot.
Right. And
so even though she
confuses...
knows where I'm coming from, so she has an idea where to look to where I'm going, it's tougher for her to predict which area and like what height I'm going to end up on because I'm coming from the high ground.
Exactly. And most of the time the tank is trying to push on, looking at the other side of this point here, and I'm hearing or seeing the hit marker on the right side of me, and I'm like, okay, she's over there, but before I can even shoot her, now she's over there and I'm dead. And that should segue into another technique that we found, which is her super jump off of a high surface which is slanted. So if you want to be able to do something really crazy, especially in this map of Ilios, she can actually jump from this ledge to this one. And it takes a little bit of practice, but we were able to get it, and it's a really great positional technique. I don't know how practical it is, but you know, if they're all fighting around this hole and trying to get people to be in here, this might be a really good technique. So show them how you can do that. So
I'm almost getting it, and I feel blue-balled by this fucking game.
Right.
There you go. Let's go. But it's very difficult to land those sorts of jumps. An example here, let me get up here. So if I slide along this slope surface, I'll gain a lot of momentum.
And look how far she goes. I mean, like, it's insane how far she actually can reposition. And I'm over here thinking, oh, she's up here, I'm gonna try to, you know, shoot her and kill her from there. But within, you know, half a second, she can jump all the way and reposition back with her teammates. And that's a really great, you know, way to play her, because she has to be played medium to long range. She does not do very well up close. Here's another good kind of advanced technique for the slide. So let's say you're behind cover, you know that tank or some other target is behind, you know, some other structure over here. So you can actually 180 slide, and if depending on your DPI or how much you swing, you can definitely 180 arc or almost 180 arc shoot while you're sliding. So I'll give you an example of what this means. So you're behind here, and see, depending on where you land, you can either go all the way behind them or at least to the side of them, making you a lot harder to hit or hook in this case. And you're also have the advantage of being behind natural cover and being able to have that element of surprise. So again, you're coming from here, you know the tank because you can see them through there, and you can do this and shoot while sliding, the same as you would do in Apex. Now, maybe a more practical and common situation might be doing this to fake out a hook or to fake out enemy ability. So, for example, I'm here, I'm strafing, I'm shooting him, and we're going to see how you can easily do this to dodge the hook. So you can do that, or try to strafe and try to dodge the hook and fake it out. See, he thinks I'm here, but by time I've already initiated this, it makes it nearly impossible to hook Sojourn.
I have to... Yeah, to give you guys an idea of the perspective from my end, I'm a high GM tank player, an off-tank player back when there were such a thing as off-tanks. So I'm fairly familiar with Roadhog, but I'm having to make about a 45, 60 degree flick to the right to adjust for her slide, and I have to do so, basically, I have to react in a good 10 frames when she starts the slide to flick.
While also avoiding damage from other people, too, in a real situation.
And also trying to predict when you're going to jump, because I don't know if you're going to jump starting there or there or there.
Right, because right now I'm just strafing and like, come on, hook me, you know? Does he know when I'm going to do it? I don't think he can predict it. So hopefully this guide was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe and follow my Twitch stream, and we'll see you in the next video.